Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome into the show. Got a good show for you here today, guys. We're going to be talking about players that are coming off of a bust season that I have very good reason to believe are going to bounce back in the 2023 season. And because of this, they're going to have awesome draft value. Players that are coming off of a bust season, people are down on them, meaning you can get them for a great price in the draft. So I'm going to start right here with the first player on my list, and that is Justin Herbert. Now, this is a guy who was second in the league in passing yards and finishes the quarterback 11. This is just a mind-blowing statistic to me. How can you be second in the league in passing yards and finish as quarterback 11? Well, I'll tell you why. He didn't have any rushing touchdowns. Okay, so, obviously quarterbacks today, they need some sort of rushing upside to be an elite quarterback. This is a perfect example of why. Because Justin Herbert was second in the league in passing yards and finished as quarterback 11. But Justin Herbert is not a guy that just isn't going to give you any rushing touchdown upside. His first season in the NFL, he had 5 rushing touchdowns. In the 2021 season, he had 3 rushing touchdowns. So he's going to give you at least some rushing upside. Okay. A big reason why he didn't have any rushing touchdowns this year was 2 reasons. One, he was banged up pretty much all season long. He had the rib injury early in the year, and he was able to play through it all year, but they just weren't taking any risks with Justin Herbert running the ball. But, next season when, he has a full offseason to recover, they'll allow him to run the ball in the red zone a little bit more often than they did this past season. On top of that, Austin Ekeler's just been scoring a ridiculous amount of touchdowns within the red zone, taking away anyone else's rushing upside within the red zone for the Chargers. But his overall amount of touchdowns scored has to regress. He scored 38 touchdowns in the past 2 seasons. You got to figure that Justin Herbert will at least have some rushing touchdowns next year. And this is a guy who was, one of the better passers in the league. I mean, he had 699 pass attempts. He was first in the league as far as pressure completion percentage, meaning, when he's under pressure, he completed the highest percentage of passes while under pressure out of any quarterback. This is an elite passing quarterback, guys. Look for the rushing touchdowns to bounce back next year. Look for him to once again be near the very top as far as overall passing yards. He does have the upside this season to be the quarterback 1. That's a little bit, it's going to be tough. I'm not saying it's going to be easy, but I think that he's easily going to be a top 5 quarterback with the upside to be the quarterback 1. So look for him to have a massive bounce back season. Next player on my list is going to be DeAndre Swift. Now, DeAndre Swift, believe it or not, was very efficient this year. 6.3 yards per touch was his second in the NFL. So this is a guy who is still a very efficient running back. He's only had a little bit over 300 career carries. He's very young. He's only 24 years old. So his legs are fresh. He's immensely talented. And they got rid of TJ Hawkinson, which means that there should be more targets available for DeAndre Swift to be the elite pass catching back that we know he could be. On top of this, Jamal Williams is a free agent. And Jamal Williams was a pest for DeAndre Swift this past year. I mean, he was cutting into his workload significantly, and later in the season, he was by far the more productive back. But I think it's very likely that the Lions part ways with Jamal Williams over the offseason, meaning that DeAndre Swift is going to get the backfield all to himself. And when you have a running back this talented in an ascending offense that's getting better and better, you know that you have some massive upside. So DeAndre Swift coming off a bust season is going to be an awesome value in the draft. He's got top 5 running back upside coming into the season, guys. So you need to get your hands on this guy. Next player on my list is going to be DK Metcalf. Now, DK Metcalf is one of the most physically dominant wide receivers in the entire NFL, as we know. Okay, so whenever this guy isn't a top 5 to 7 wide receiver, it's kind of disappointing. He was wide receiver 16 this year, which isn't absolutely terrible, but considering the fact that he was on a Seahawks offense that outperformed expectations, considering the fact that he saw 27 red zone targets, which is second in the NFL, you would think he would have put up way better overall fantasy numbers. But sometimes these things just don't work out. But I'm here to tell you that his lack of production this past season as far as overall fantasy points is a fluke. I mean, only 13.3 fantasy points per game for a wide receiver of this caliber in an offense that was way better than anyone expected them to be is definitely a little bit of a disappointment. So I think that he's going to bounce back in a massive way. He's still extremely young. He's only 25 years old. Tyler Lockett's 30 now, so he's a little bit older. So you got to figure that the Tyler Lockett production is going to start to fall at least a little bit, which opens up more production for DK Metcalf. I think he certainly has the upside to be a top 5 to 7 wide receiver in fantasy next year, especially considering that Geno Smith is, I think, a lot better than a lot of us thought he would be as he showed this past season. So I love a huge bounce back for DK Metcalf. Next player on my list is going to be Keenan Allen. Now, Keenan Allen only played 9 games this past season. And so, we're looking at a guy that is one of the better route runners in the NFL. He was top 10 in target separation, 2.18 yards per target separation, which basically means how much cushion you have when the ball arrives. This is a guy who's pretty much top 10 in this statistic every single year. This is a guy who is incredibly good at creating separation in his routes. He's a target hog who's going to see pretty much on average 10 targets a game throughout the entire course of a season. He plays in an offense that accumulates massive passing yard totals, as we saw, because Justin Herbert had the second most passing yards in fantasy this past year. Keenan Allen has ridiculous yardage total upside, ridiculous PPR upside due to seeing on average 10 targets a game. He's got great touchdown upside due to being a red zone target hog. This past season, injuries just killed him. I mean, he missed half the season. He only played half the games. Next season, if he's on the field for the entire year, watch out. He's going to be awesome. Don't worry about the fact that he's a little bit older. Keenan Allen is 30 now, but this is not really a wide receiver that relies on his raw athleticism to produce awesome fantasy numbers. He pretty much relies on his finesse and his awesome route running ability. So, he's never really been fast or overly athletic in the first place, and he's never needed that type of high-end athleticism to produce. This guy's just incredibly good at playing his position, so I wouldn't worry about the fact that he's 30 now. He's still going to be very productive and have an awesome bounce-back season this coming year. Next player on my list, final player I have here is going to be Mike Evans now. Mike Evans has been in the league for 9 years, guys, and has not had one season of less than 1,000 receiving yards. This is absolutely amazing. It shows what a truly elite wide receiver he is. And so I love him to have an awesome bounce-back season. I mean, he really was just totally out of sync with Tom Brady in the offense this whole year. The offense just didn't perform up to expectations. But Mike Evans has shown that no matter who his quarterback is, he can be productive. He's had Ryan Fitzpatrick, Jameis Winston, Tom Brady. He's been productive with all of them. And so he's one of those rare types of wide receivers where he's going to be productive no matter who his quarterback is. So I'm not really worried about the quarterback position in Tampa. I mean, obviously Tom Brady could come out of retirement again. That wouldn't surprise me whatsoever. If Tom Brady is his quarterback to start the season and he comes out of retirement, that's great. He's going to produce with Tom. But no matter who comes in and plays quarterbacks for the Bucs, I think that Mike Evans is going to be very productive. He's just that kind of wide receiver. 6 out of his 9 seasons, he's had a play of 50 yards or more. So we know that this guy has tremendous big play potential. And he's going to have a handful of big plays every single season, no matter who's slinging him the rock. And the touchdowns were a little bit down this past season. He only had 6, but this is a guy who gets targeted heavily in the red zone. So look for the touchdown numbers to go up in this next season for Mike Evans. Look for him to be one of the biggest bounce-back players in fantasy and one of the best values in the draft because of this. All right, guys, those are my bounce-back players for the 2023 season that we have upcoming. I think they're going to be way better than they were in 2022. So draft them and take advantage of the awesome value. All right, guys, appreciate you tuning into the video. I will catch you later.